Hi, I'm Diana Montford, the world's first transgender television journalist. What, you might ask, does that mean? It means I was born male, became female, just in case you were wondering. My guest is that wonderful artist whom we love, Ms. Nancy Purnell. You've seen her before. Hopefully you'll see her again. And on this show, she's going to talk and show us a series of paintings she's done called, what is it called?
Maddening Hell.
Maddening Hell. Sounds good to me. Okay, so tell us about Maddening Hell.
It's a series of works on paper, oil paint applied to sort of a textured paper.
Uh-huh.
And the theme is a description and visualization of a love story that ends.
Don't
And
they all?
I don't think they all end. I mean, American in Paris, they came together at the end.
You just saw the play American in Paris on Broadway.
Did.
Did you like it?
Loved it. It was
Good.
absolutely
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Wonderful one.
So, shall we go forward with Maddening Hell?
I think we should.
All right, the first
Into the breach
in the series that I did called Maddening Hell, I call the first one Alive, reaching with color and movement toward the peaks of feeling alive.
Is that when someone is looking for a lover or has found a lover, or is it
They're reaching with color and movement toward the peaks of feeling alive. So they haven't found it yet. They're looking, searching. And so they're all kind of out there searching and looking for this.
Okay.
They're reaching for passion and continuing toward passion.
Well, okay.
Well, go ahead.
Passion is easy to find. Love is difficult.
Well, yes, it is. But this was the first part, was just feeling alive,
I
looking for feeling alive.
I see.
Now we're reaching for passion and continuing toward passion.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the second part of it. This is the reaching for passion.
It's very phallic.
And continuing toward passion. Yeah, and when I was doing it, I wasn't thinking of specifically phallic symbols. It's all subconscious. Basically, and when you see these different pieces in the series, I wasn't saying this is replicate something in particular.
It looks like a vagina, actually.
It probably is.
Yeah.
I mean, it is whatever you want it to be or think about it that it is. But when I completed the series, as I kept working on it, looking at it after, I said, oh, some of these images definitely have phallic tendencies, shall we say, or.
Well, now, how did you do that? You literally used oil paint on paper.
Yeah, on a very sort of thick paper, and I.
Like sketch paper, that kind of
No,
thing?
it's like a watercolor textured rag paper,
yes.
because to absorb the paint.
Yes.
Or to allow the paint to work, because I was moving it around with brushes and fingers and things like that to get the effect. Now the third one, it says the soul meets inside. The soul meets inside. And this one, you can see.
Is that coitus? Is that lovemaking? Is that sex?
It could be, because the soul meets inside. Both have souls that meet and merge.
Do you mean emotionally or physically?
I don't know. I think that's up to you.
Okay.
They merge as one. In other words, at the moment, there's a one. They feel like one, or they are one. Let's say they are one.
For the time being.
For the moment.
Yes.
Just for the moment, it says. Now, the next one says Hotbed Castle of Joy.
Hotbed Castle of Joy.
The feeling of joy together. Now here, they make your comments on this one.
All right. Well, it really does look to me like a vaginal canal. And
now the red on the side, the red sort of circle with the orange in it.
Yes.
How do you feel? What do you feel about that shape?
Oddly enough, to me, that calls to mind a breast. Not so much, genitalia, but
no, I think that's probably what it is. Hotbed Castle of Joy, the feeling of joy together. So they're both.
Are they actually making love, having sex? Is that what you mean by that?
They could be. I don't want to just say,
or do you mean they're connecting emotionally or what?
I think they're connecting emotionally. as they're connecting physically.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow that happens once in a while, that both of these things really do connect.
If one is lucky.
If
yes.
one is lucky. And it's very, it's the moment. It's
Yes.
not anything that you can continue and perpetuate or say,
Sadly,
oh,
no.
I'd like to have that again, but,
Yeah.
who knows?
Can you have it? I had it when I was very young, but as I grew older, I grew cynical and hard. Can one still give so completely after a certain level of experience or age?
I think the answer to that is yes, but it's different. Because, when we're at this age, we have a history, we have a
Yes.
life, we've done so many
If
things.
we're lucky. I know
Well-
people our age who do not have a life, which
Well,
is very sad.
let's say we do,
We
or
certainly
we have.
do. And let's hope the vice cops don't find out for God's sake.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But back in the day, when you're 14 or 16 or 18, 20, that's a different concept, I think.
Yeah,
of what
when
you're,
I
so
fell
what
in
you're
love the
searching
first
for.
time I was 19, oh my God, it was like, wow, what is this? It was like going into another dimension. It was just
I know.
unbelievable.
But you're talking about in your latter years, it could be just as exciting and passionate and
Oh,
all
yeah,
that, but
sure.
I think it's different
It is.
than the
It
way
really
it was
is.
when you're 16 or
Sure,
18
because
or
you're
something.
careful. You don't want to get hurt.
Well, maybe that's part of it too, but I think you could still have the joy.
Oh, yeah, but measured. You don't want to...
That's a good word,
Yeah.
having it measured somewhat. And so therefore you're maybe holding back a bit.
little.
Where maybe when you were 16 or 18 you didn't hold back because you
knew?
didn't know how.
Exactly.
Oh,
And then
that-
you got hurt the first
and
time
you
and
didn't
you
know that you
wanted
had to.
die. You begged God that you would die.
Now this is Together Light Flashing. Am I holding it correctly here? Together Light
that's
Flashing.
so
Get my
beautiful.
hand away
That
from
is
it.
beautiful.
Yeah. So they're Together Light Flashing.
That would make a great cover for some kind of brochure or
Mm-hmm.
something.
As we move within each other to incredible light. Now I'm just trying to get this so you can see it on a better angle. But
That is really beautiful.
it really is moving, isn't it?
Yes. And the colors are fantastic. Really lovely.
Well, thank you. I like the passionate colors, but I think you also need to sort of juxtapose them with a dark color. Now this is let's have your comments on this one.
Oh, that is too phallic to deal with.
This
That
is
is
number
like a portrait of a phallus. Ah.
softly. Wait a minute. I have to get this correctly. Maybe I'll pull it back a little bit. My fingers sort
Maybe
of
you should
away
pull
there.
out a little. No, I'm
You think-
kidding. No,
Oh,
that's a joke.
oh, gee.
I don't want to get pregnant, okay? No,
All right.
just kidding.
But
Yes.
see, I didn't like to have my hand right here. That's sort of.
Oh, honey,
covered.
I've been there many a time. Don't worry about it. They love it.
Oh, gosh.
Listen, I've been known to beat men off with a stick, although using my hand works better. But okay. These are the jokes, folks. What can I tell you?
Now, yeah. So this one's softly in the morning.
He looks
and
pretty
rest
hard to me, but okay.
and rest intertouching together.
Oh.
Now, we can understand that?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
When he's in that rubbery state when you both wake up and he wants it again. And you
Well-
have to get ready. What time is it? Well, okay, but make it fast. I have to go.
So
Oh, memories that bless and burn.
now, this is not into your phallic area. It's simply sunrise, as the sun and daylight engulf us.
Yes. That is not necessarily a sexual or romantic.
No,
image.
it's just the sunrise. But
Yes.
it seems now I'm looking at it that
Looks like a rainbow.
I seem to use the same palette. Throughout this, there seems to be the same palette of color.
Well,
Even
yeah,
though that I use them in the phallic pieces.
But people like their colors.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I love your colors. Rembrandt used all those browns, which is sort of depressing when you think about it.
Yeah. Now we get to, sort of the
Oh, I love that. That's so
the
nasty.
palette is changing,
Oh,
where it says
I'm shocked.
what? Yeah.
Please, I went to Catholic school.
All
It's
right.
too hideous. No, I love it. It looks to me like a
Tell
vagina.
me about this. Tell me
Doesn't
about
it look
this.
like a vagina to you?
You know, when I was painting these, I never thought of the specific details of any genitalia. I was just painting colors that had a passion to them, and some of them are more somber as we move towards the latter part of the series. And I don't know that they just came to me subconsciously. I'm not sure.
Well, sure.
Now this says warm parting.
Oh.
And then we leave each other warm and happy. So you're probably correct, because when we're leaving each other warm and happy, we're probably leaving each other warm and happy after we've been very close.
And then he never calls. That no
well,
good, you
right.
know what?
I don't know, but it's a warm parting, but it's not goodbye. It's just when you're
Well, let's
finished.
hope, you know. Yeah.
But after warm parting, we said, you know, this is again some of those same colors, but it says, look back at early light, and I reflect, sensing the moments past. Now this might tell a little bit of the story, because it's almost looks like a road.
It does to me.
That's going away into the distance, which again, I didn't plan to paint some road.
Are you
or
saying
a mountain.
that they're going together into the distance, or that he's or she's going away?
I'm not really writing a script for this. I'm really, so much of this, I'm sorry that it's kind of getting shiny, but so much of this was done in a sort of subconscious sense, that I was really playing with color and movement, but also had made up the titles for each one of these pieces. So I was actually trying to express.
Oh, I see. You did the titles before.
Yeah,
you did.
I did the titles before. And so this says, look back at early light, and I reflect, sensing the moments past. But that could be any kind of a moment past. And I guess I used some of the symbols, or the imagery, being the road and the mountain and going off into the distance. You know, it just sort of, I guess, an illustration probably of a thought. Now this, you can maybe make a comment on this one. This is, excuse me, one more taste.
Too easy.
Too
One more
easy.
taste. Yes,
All right,
come on.
one more taste. I must have the passion again, reaching to touch and taste.
Well,
what do you think, Diana?
I think it's a great idea. It's wonderful.
Now it's funny, in this one I didn't use all those oranges and those other colors.
No,
I just meant,
red and gray and white.
yeah, I kept it very
And
sort
black.
of, would you say stark?
Yes, it's very chic, though. I mean, if you enlarged it, it would make a great wall, a huge painting taking up a wall, just like that. That would be wonderful.
Well, I have thought about doing something like that with these, because one could enlarge them, you know, have a print made and enlarge them into on a canvas, or do something like that, and really a big statement.
Yeah.
A strong
that would
statement.
be great.
And that
be
one would really
fabulous.
make a really
It
strong
really
statement.
would. It really would.
Because these were, you know, when you think about how people paint, they're usually paint so huge, and these are really rather small. Now this one is called, let's see, I put it up. You see, this is very sort of a somber.
Yes, and it's very tranquilizing. It's good for a bedroom or something, you know.
Well, yeah. I'm trying to get this even. And now this one, it says, I wrote this actually painted this to where I said, nowhere mist, but it is gone, empty, lost in the gray mist. And that could be anything that's lost in the gray mist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, this isn't just particularly all to do with genitalia and sexuality. A lot of it could be something else.
That's quite actually unsexual. It's very, I find it tranquilizing and almost spiritual, actually, because of all the blues and all that.
And I think this one would be very interesting, blown up.
Yeah,
large.
well, that's what I mean, yeah.
Because you could almost get
You could
lost
use it as
in
a
the blue.
headboard, in a sense. Put it behind a bed without a headboard. No, and it would
Right.
look wonderful, you know.
And look at the colors, the blue and the dark, and then the gray is in there. And then it really has a mist effect
Well,
to
it's
it.
a very Toulouse-Lautrec effect in that the gray also has green and yellow, and It's
Yeah.
very.
See the blue on the bottom
Yeah,
has a
it's
dark
not.
blue.
They're not pure colors. They're
No,
some dimensional in a sense.
and that's why when I painted it was easier to do this because I had that rag paper, and you could certainly do this on canvas. I just decided to do this series on paper. See the blues?
How do you get the edges so even? Do you tape the sides or what?
The edges? You mean the edges here?
I mean.
Oh, this is the end of the painting. The whole painting is, this is a border. The white is the border.
But how do you get it so straight and perfect?
Well, because I have the paper cut perfectly.
No, but I mean inside. How do you get it?
Oh,
In other words, so that it's perfectly square. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's because initially I have a rectangle cut, and then I just paint on top of that, and there isn't any border.
I see.
But when I did this, I put the print on the border, and then but the painting itself goes right to the edge.
Mm-hmm.
It's what they call washed to the edge.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one in this series is called, I call it, see, this is really quite another sort of
I
dramatic.
find that sinister somehow.
Well, it is sinister because it says, see through the red
Finish.
letters there? What does it say?
It says finish.
That's what it
Finito.
says.
Fall. The end. Kaputski. Over.
So
Say hello to goodbye, buddy. Doors that way.
So it says finish, and all the passion, soul, touch, end. And because things end.
Yeah,
all
but you
things
see,
end.
Yes, but
Life ends.
But it can, the passion ends, but then the friendship grows and the almost siblinghood grows. In other words, yes, the heat of passion does dissipate, but there are trade-offs. You connect in other ways, I think.
Yeah, but I also think this can transcend the passion in terms of sexuality or love as well, because when you look at the painting, it also could be just things in life, things that you love, things that you care about, things you remember,
Yes.
experiences you've had. Things end. And I was hoping that this visualization of that works. I think it does. That it
Yes.
visually makes you feel about something ending.
Yes.
And yet, when I look at it now, though, I think it's not a complete end because of those colors. I feel that maybe there's something beyond that dark mountain.
Well,
there,
in a
or
sense,
almost
one
like a
door
mountain.
closes and another one opens.
Yeah. So I think maybe
But
that's
I
what
find
that
it
says.
depressing that things have to end.
That's true. I mean, but it's true in anything in life.
Yep.
When I was a child, I always thought when we had family gatherings and family parties and gatherings, I was always crying when everyone left. The relatives and the cousins and everything. And my parents say, all good things come to an end. That was the old statement. And it's I guess it's true, whether it's good things and bad things, things end. And sometimes some people can cope with it much more easily in their lives. And one thing, if here or there, it doesn't matter. People are easy with that. They can change faces, change places, change all kinds of things very easily. And I think some of us, we have a little more difficulty with that. And so maybe that's why when I do some of these painting series, I'm dealing with the sexual aspect too, and the soul and all that.
Yeah.
But I'm also dealing, I think, with that concept of that things, you're passionate about the park, the beautiful autumn leaves.
Yes.
If you were out the day after the blizzard
Yes.
in Central
Yes,
Park on
yes,
Sunday,
yes,
it was gorgeous. That was a
Yes.
passionate day too.
Well,
But-
there are a lot of ways to feel passion, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. So
And
that's
as Shakespeare said, passion, they say, is catching. Or was it Liz Taylor who said that? Someone
she
said,
probably said it.
She said it
I
in the
bet she
commercial, but
did.
she was quoting
I bet Elizabeth
the
said
Bard.
it. I'm quite sure.
Now,
Elizabeth said it.
where do people show? Let me ask you that. If people want to show their paintings, where do they go to show?
Well, that's an interesting question, Diana, because it's become very difficult these days to show art
Why?
in the city.
Why?
You mean, you want to restrict it to New York City, or just like where do people show, not in the whole world, but just here, or?
Well, in the U.S., I mean, venues that would apply to every city.
Well, one of the things that people do, like if you want to go sort of general, then we can discuss more specifically New York and other aspects as well. But artists have an option to go to see these places called publishers, and they can send their work and try to get their work to have them make prints.
Right.
And then it goes online.
Do they charge?
I don't know how much they charge to take your print, because I've never done it, but I'm sure there's some money involved. That nothing really works where. On the other hand, if they want to have your print and they're going to sell it online,
oh well, then you get a commission.
but then you have to be careful too in terms of how much ownership are you giving them. If you're going to sell it to them, can they just take it and you can't have it anymore? Or can they only make a print and you keep the original, which means you still have the original?
But aren't some artists so desperate that they'll say yes to anything just to get started?
Oh,
just
absolutely.
To
Just to be out there. The whole thing is just to be out there and be seen.
Because actors do the same thing.
Well, artists are very vulnerable.
Yeah, sure.
You know, actors are vulnerable. And it's hard because you're not really making a direct living unless you do have a different job.
Right, exactly.
So anyway, for a lot of people, artists all over the world, they have the venues of these printing publishers, and they're taking, their prints can be sold online. The next thing, of course, the first thing is the most difficult thing, is to find a gallery. Someone who would represent you. Well, it's impossible, but if you go all around the city and you see all these galleries.
What do you do? Just walk in and say, here's my phone with my paintings on it. I would dearly love to show in your gallery.
If they even look at you when you do that, that would be interesting. They usually have their own specific way in which you do this, and that you send in your slides. In the old days, it was
I remember, yes, you send in
your
slides,
packet,
yes,
and your resume and all that.
Now you do it via computer, though.
Yeah. Well, today they want PDFs and they want all of these things done, and then they look at everything on a computer and they decide if they want to actually look at the real thing or not. But to just waltz in and say, here I am, that isn't to say you can't do that. You can try it. But I think most people will go through the normal method of.
Well, in acting, sometimes agents say no calls, no visits.
Yeah, but we know that there's always the possibility that you can go around that or give it a try.
When I was 17 years old, I waylaid Francesco Scavullo, the famous photographer, and I pleaded with him for, laugh if you will, beauty advice, which he was very kind and gave me, and told me how to get started in this lovely business. And he was very, very nice, and he didn't know me at all, and maybe that's why he was so nice, he didn't know me. But anyway, no, he was very, very nice, and God bless him wherever he might be.
Yeah.
He has gone on to his reward. So sometimes, rarely, you can burst into someone's, it can be I Love Lucy, you can burst into someone's studio or atelier and plead for advice, and you might get it,
Well, the thing, I had heard the story about Estee Lauder, where she was making all the perfumes and stuff in her bathroom, and when instead of going the normal route, which way back in the day, I don't really know what the normal route was, but she chose to go to Bergdorf. That's the story I heard.
Yes.
And so she went straight in there with her things, and they did look at them, and then she became, eventually, because she had the drive and I guess the real thought that what she had, her product was great, and she just did it.
Well,
now whether you could do that today,
Elizabeth Arden,
no idea,
priced herself at the very top end of the market, her cosmetics, and when the Depression came along, it made no impact on her because people at the top 1% can afford whatever they like, and since her cosmetics were aimed at the top 1%, fine, and other people, less wealthy people, would save their pennies to buy Elizabeth Arden creams or makeup.
Do you have any idea of how she started? Did she
start
similarly to?
Way down. She was born in Canada on a farm. Her mother died when she was 5. Her mother died of tuberculosis. We're talking about Elizabeth Arden. She had a series of jobs. Her real name was Florence Nightingale Graham. And she came to New York when she was about 30. 26 actually, I think, and got a job, as it happens, in a manicure facial salon. It was the only job she could get. She knew nothing about this. But she
Oh,
learned,
wow.
and that gave her her start, and that's how she became Elizabeth Arden. But let's talk about Nancy Purnell. Lizzie Arden has plenty of press, doesn't need us. So,
Well, we were talking in the general way that artists would go ahead, could be shown or seen.
well, how
And I
do you
would say,
get shown?
how do I get shown? It's a lot of legwork, and I haven't done the gallery scene really. I've done some of it, and I've
Well,
been,
you've
back
shown,
in the
we only
day,
have 2 minutes. You've shown in a bar, I know that.
I've shown in bars. I've shown in libraries. I have 5 shows this year also have scheduled, and I have shown
Which you can find on Nancy's website, which is?
My website is faithgalleries@yahoo.com.
FAITH galleries@yahoo.com.
Yes. And I'll do the Gracie Show in New York City. I do the shows, the All Out Art Show at Martha's
yes,
Vineyard.
yes,
I've done, so I just go out and apply to all these things and juried shows and everything, and I get accepted to some, and other ones.
And you have a day job as an art teacher, which
and
is
I
wonderful.
am an instructor and still teaching and still doing my
and I think
seeking
that's great
painting.
because bills have to be paid and paints have to
Well,
be
yeah,
paid
you
for.
can't just rely on what you're creating.
Just to buy
It's not
materials, you need some kind of job.
It's not a good plan to rely on what you're creating
No.
because it restricts what you're creating
Yes.
unless you have a commission. And then you say, when I did the house for breakfast
Yes,
at
yes,
Tiffany's,
yes,
we
yes.
talked about that before. That's a commission.
But
So
how
you-
often do those come around?
They
Especially
don't.
in today's world where they don't
you might
really...
get 10 or 15 a year, which is not bad. But
no,
I mean,
but in today's world, they're not very art-oriented. 150 years ago, they had nothing but art. Today, they have videos, they have computers.
oh, I see what you're
yeah.
saying. It's not like you have your own piece of art in your house. Now you say, well, I can just look at all kinds of videos
Right,
and I can
exactly.
see art. So I don't really need a painting, or I don't really need that.
Anyway, my guest has been the fabulous artist, Miss Nancy Purnell. Can you give your website one more time?
Yes. Faith Galleries, FAITHGALLERIES @yahoo.com.
And if you're lucky enough to view Nancy's work, good for you. And if you are lucky enough to someday be in one of her art classes, good for you.
And also the YouTube.
Yes, and you can see us on YouTube. Every show we do with Nancy winds up on YouTube, so look for it. And you will see Nancy discussing many different venues of the art world and many different types of art. She's
Well, they can just go to YouTube and say Nancy Purnell Abstracts, for example.
Right.
And they can pick up the show we did on abstracts.
Nancy's a Renaissance woman. She knows a lot about a lot of things. Anyway, this has been the Diana Montford Show. My guest has been artist and educator Nancy Purnell. I love you. Even if no one else loves you, I love you. You're my art, okay? And I love you a lot, and I'll see you next time. Take really good care of yourself. Love you. Bye. See you now soon.